Hello and welcome to Furious Driving. Now, car collecting and the car hobby comes in all kinds of forms, but there's one thing that does seem to be common across the world of car hoarding, and that is the passion that goes for cars in general, whether it's across the board in all different makes and marks and models, or whether it's one specific thing. That is the common denominator, that love, that passion, that enthusiasm for something on four wheels, or two wheels possibly with motorbikes. But today we're going to meet a man who's taken that collecting and passion to the next level with one of the finest single mark and single model collections you've ever seen. And what makes this collection so interesting is that although they are all the same make and model, every one is completely different, which makes us a little bit different, and perhaps it's because of the uniqueness of the Series One Land Rover. So who owns all of this insanity? Worse than me in a way, you could say. Well, no, more sensible than me, I would definitely say. This is Nick. This is Nick's barn, these are Nick's Land Rovers. But Nick, why? How?
Well,
what started it?
You're welcome, thanks for your interest. My interest goes back to childhood, really, I suppose, with Land Rovers.
With cars in general, or just Land Rovers?
It was cars in general, but I used to collect the little models, the die-cast models, and still do. And this was one of my favourites of the time, which was a Moorstone AA road service Land Rover.
So it's quite an accurate model of a AA Land Rover.
In the day, it particularly was, and yeah, they were things I was absolutely fascinated with. And then, sort of over the years, I sort of realised that every time you turn on the television and something in the world is going on, disaster-wise or where help is needed, central to all of those pictures was a Land Rover.
So the heart of everything.
And that really sort of got me hooked on really liking the original, all the vehicles as well as the toys.
Yeah.
At the time I didn't have one, but it wasn't so much later that the first Land Rover arrived, and my interest has really been in the very early ones, which is the Series One Land Rovers. So they ran for a period from 1948 through to 1958, and so many different derivatives made it a fascinating hobby.
Well, they're so versatile as a car, aren't they? They're not just a...
Absolutely, yeah, and it's really quite interesting that you know how they've developed from short wheelbase, 80-inch, to the farmer's car originally.
Yeah.
That could be hosed out when they got dirty in the field. They had power takeoffs on the back to drive machinery and so on. Getting a little bit more sophisticated and extending the wheelbase when people wanted to be carried into station wagons, both short and long wheelbase, and lots of different uses. You know, you will see as we have a wander later on that we've tried to focus our collection on those that are just a little bit unusual, as well as those that we absolutely love and are part of the family. So we've got our first one here in this barn, which is affectionately known as Sybil. She's an 86-inch station wagon, which is reportedly a very early station wagon, was on the Earl's Court Motor Show stand for Land Rover. I think it is more fable than truth.
You've not found a photo of that one?
I haven't, no. But
as we go around,
talk about it, and I'm thinking, well, it's just a nice story, really.
Well, we won't dispute it.
But Sybil is my first love, and she won't go anywhere. She sort of fits us like a glove as a family. Yeah, very much so. And she was owned by the chap who owned Exford Garage in Exmoor. And he loved it so much too, as the first owner, that when he sadly passed away, Sybil featured on his funeral service, order of service, and she's been very well known in the Land Rover circle, and I'm delighted to be custodian for the last 23 years now.
Is that your first Series One?
It was the first Series One, and then of course it becomes an illness, and then the bug was bitten. Yeah.
I'm just looking around the room at the moment, it's not just cars, there's all kinds of paraphernalia, there's garage signs, there's models, there's photos.
This is the come to, some people call it man cave, but it's the escape, you know. It's lovely to spend time down here. Just tinker, frankly.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I'm looking at the tools as well, it's a lot of fun just finding things to fix in here.
Well, yes, we tinker and we do keep them in good shape. So all of the Series Ones are on the button and ready to go, and they are used. So that's an important thing, really, to keep everything functional and working.
So this is Sybil.
This is Sybil, bless her. She's an 86-inch station wagon, a genuine station wagon, and 4 seats in the back, 3 up front. It's a 2-litre engine. She's a 1954, but a 1955 model year.
Oh, okay.
So she's got the slightly different 2-litre spread bore engine, and yeah, she's, as I say, part of the family, and as genuine as we can make it to Series 1
This
spec.
has been restored by the Dunsfold collection, you said?
It was indeed, yeah, in the days when they used to do that, and they also, of course, did this one next to it, which is the 107 station wagon, and this is the snowblower, which originally came with a crawler gearbox and shortened prop shafts, which I've still got. But we now have it in the configuration of a usable station wagon, which we use for touring, and one of 2 that Land Rover actually converted. So
Okay. And we've got the photos of this.
we've got the original as it was used, and
Which is quite incredible.
we haven't got the snow plough, which it pushed up front.
That would be amazing, wouldn't it? To have
We were
this as a-
always looking for it, but British rotary snow ploughs were the manufacturers, so there's going to be one out there somewhere.
in a barn. Someone in a barn.
Indeed.
Do you know where those photos were taken?
I think probably around Norfolk. It lived a lot of its life around there.
Right.
So we did trace some of its history to being on service at Norfolk airfields and so on. So it would largely be clearing runways of snow.
Yeah.
Subsequently, it hasn't done a great mileage. I think it's currently showing 40,000 miles, genuine miles, since it was new. So it drives
nothing, is it?
beautifully.
Yeah.
No.
Is it possible to lift the engine on these? Or
We can have a look at this one, yeah.
So this is Sybil's engine. This is a 4-cylinder, 2-litre.
2-litre petrol.
Solex carburettor. And this has all been restored mechanically as well?
Yes. I mean, this engine has done quite a high mileage.
Oh, is it?
But it's actually a beautiful engine. It runs silk smooth.
Oh, that's nice.
It's on the button, so we use this one quite a lot actually.
It's a lovely looking thing. It's amazing seeing the differences and how it's changed. So this is a 54. So we've got the light's no longer behind the grille already at this point.
That's right. You're absolutely right. So typically the earlier models, we'll look at a couple in a moment, which were the smaller engine, the 1600 engine, and they had lights behind the grille.
Yeah.
They were absolutely useless if you were driving at night because no light would be thrown out at all. They were very small butler lamps, such as were on the top of this one.
Those little things,
But then, of course, as you say quite rightly, as time went on,
they evolved it.
It evolved and the lights came outside of the grille. And
Do you know why this has got the capstan? Was this for towing when it was a recovery vehicle or something with the garage?
Indeed, yeah. This goes back to the time it was new, almost really. It was owned by, as I say, the person at Exford Garage, and this was part of the kit that it carried at the time. So
people out of situations.
it carries its history with it. Yeah.
It's interesting seeing the exposed rivets just so visible as part of the.
All the galvanised cappings and surrounds, as they should be. You sometimes see that they get covered up as people sort of use them and prefer to paint them, but it's nice to have that contrast with the galv. Absolutely.
Also the B post. You kind of forget on these early ones how big that is. It looks.
They're typically big Meccano sets, really.
They really are, aren't they?
Because you can bolt them together and so on.
You see all the screw heads and the bolt heads just.
And this one is absolutely correct in terms of the blue wheels that the 107-inch had at the time. In station wagon configuration. So
they get different colour wheels for different models in the range.
Absolutely, and even the interiors were different types of material that we use. This is rather checker in its design.
It's like a vinyl version of tweed.
Indeed, yeah.
And what did the 3-door have? Or the short wheelbase, I should say.
We could have had this, but it was arranged between blue, which is what Sybil has got, but also what was very popular is the grey elephant hide.
So that's on the door as well.
It's all mod cons.
And that's how it would have been as well.
Indeed.
Excellent.
Yeah.
So nice.
Where we've improved and restored part of it, we've done our very best to keep the original parts in the garage as well. So these are replacement seats, but we do our best to keep as much of the original as we can.
All tucked away safely.
Indeed.
And interestingly, the safari roof was like the luxury item to keep it cool in
Yes, that's
Kind of
right. And the logic is that it traps the air between the skins of metal, and it does seem to work.
Keeps it
It
cool.
actually looks rather smart.
It does,
too.
doesn't it? Yeah, that's
it's
a real
nice
genuine period
contrast,
feel.
Yeah.
And I love the skylights as well. It's the thing they...
The Alpine lights, yeah.
Up right up to the end of the old Defenders they were still using.
Indeed, they do, and
even the new one?
even the new one, not quite the same, but there's a queue to these,
okay,
so that it's got a
modular.
little bit of the old Land Rover thinking in the design. Yeah.
Now, apparently there have been many arguments in the Land Rover world about what is the correct one of these handles on the back corner, because sometimes they're different from year to year and model to model, and people have been disagreeing no end about which is which. It turns out, though, that they would get great big crates of these along the production line. The guy would pick one out of the crate, bolt it onto the car. If he got to the end of one crate, he opened the next crate, and if it wasn't the same, he'd put a different one on the other side. So you get cars that are mixed matched, and so there isn't a correct one as such. It was just whatever was in on the day.
This one is an 86-inch one again. It's an earlier build than Sybil, so this was built in December 1953. Consequently, it's the 1954 model that still had the bored-out engine from the 1600s, so that's known as the Siamese bore, and those engines are perfectly fine in 4-cylinder configuration.
So fine here.
In 6-cylinder, which Rover were producing, they had heating problems, or overheating problems. So quite quickly, the Siamese bore was replaced by a different derivative of the engine, the spread bore, which is what these have got, but that's still got the Siamese bore. And this one was a genuine fire engine built by Land Rover, so not a conversion. And this one actually was owned by, it was the first Land Rover that the Electricity Supply Board in Ireland had in their fleet. So they've been well known for having Land Rovers, ever since the 50s. This was the very first one that they had. It was stationed at Ballyshannon, which was their hydroelectric plant, which is still there today. And it didn't do a great deal of work other than sort of parade around the plant. Subsequently, its mileage is now reading, I think, 12,000 miles.
That's incredible, isn't it, for a car that's, what, 70 years old?
Absolutely, yeah. So
it's a lovely looking thing. So you've got the bell on the front of the bell work?
It does indeed, the Winkworth bell. I can demonstrate that to you.
Oh, yes, please. Like on the Wolseley 699 police car we featured recently, we've got a Winkworth bell. Coming through.
And this is the engine, which looks very similar, but as I say, it's the earlier engine that's in there. So 2 litre again, petrol, which they all were at this stage.
Yeah, and also the Rover company of Solihull, or Solihull.
Indeed.
Rather than Land Rover.
Yeah.
Which has got an interesting little touch. And one thing I noticed on this one, which is quite cool, is the red seats.
Yes.
Now, would this have been a special order, do you think, for or by Land Rover, or for the fire service to have red seats in their red fire engine?
It was certainly the spec that Land Rover used for their fire engine setup, really. So it wasn't a special order for this particular fire engine, but they came out with that for the fire engine spec.
So where does the water pump live on it? Is that in the back?
Yes. So the water tank is there in.
This is the water. Not a huge water tank, is it? But you can hook up to
indeed, and this is all the pump equipment on the back.
Okay, so it's running off the power takeoff.
Indeed, you can see the working from there.
Oh, yeah, you can actually see it going into the.
Yeah, and from the front end, you'll see that it's driven by a governor which sits on the top. Just there.
Oh, it looks looking like a supercharger, but in fact it's not.
No, that's right. So once the pump is engaged, then the governor kicks in and runs it through the PTO, as you say.
Now, it's not just one barn, there's a second barn, because the insanity continues.
It does indeed. Hello, Matt. Come on in and enjoy this one.
Rain.
Yeah.
Oh, this is amazing. This is absolutely stunning.
So we're not in any particular chronological order.
No.
But we can sort of walk you through some of these.
So we've got a breakdown truck here.
Yeah, so this one is a wrecker, and interesting history. So playing to my hobby of collecting the models, there's a model of the actual vehicle, and that's one of about half a dozen that were manufactured by different people of this vehicle.
So was that before or after you bought the the Land Rover?
This one was just afterwards, but there are several from before, and the livery changed a little bit over the years, but always in this style.
Okay.
Now, quite interestingly, this was one that was restored about 35 years ago, I would say. So it's not pure Series 1 completely, although we're gradually getting it back to that specification.
Yeah.
So, for example, it's got a later steering box than it should have, but it's easy to drive with that on it.
Absolutely.
There's sort of brake components and so on, which are fine and of the period, but not particularly a 107-inch 7-inch long wheelbase. And so it was a little bit of a creation. But then a wrecker is always a creation, really, because they supplied the truck, and then the garages fitted their own cranes and recovery gear into the back.
Absolutely, they got adapted as they were needed.
Yeah, exactly. This one sort of ended up in Yorkshire, or the Lake District, I'm sorry, in a motor museum.
Okay.
From where it was with a dealer in Yorkshire and bought by an American in Carolina, and it was exported to the States.
Wow.
And we heard about it in the States and got in contact with the then owner, decided that it ought to come and live back in the UK, so we shipped it back. And we've gradually been sort of improving it and using it and enjoying it ever since. So this is quite a well-known one.
Yeah, hence the fact that the models and things.
Indeed.
So what year is it built?
This one, 1957.
Okay, so that's a 2-litre again in this one.
It's a 2-litre petrol. Great year, same year that I was manufactured. Yeah.
But better service history.
Yeah, indeed.
Oh, it's a fascinating thing. It's interesting seeing this is put in back in about 1957 or 8, I guess. This crane arrangement.
Yeah, it's very early life. Could have been just as a truck.
Yeah,
And then as it became used or was developed and restored and adapted as a wrecker, so all this equipment just fits in and bolts in. It does all work actually. We've used it on the farm here, and we've sort of recovered vehicles from the field and so on. It's all in working order, which is great. So it comes with its little crate of what used to be the SO Lube oil bottles and so on, and a lot of the period type equipment in tools as well as fire extinguishers.
Hard-tired Dunlops.
The little dolly, that would be used for the back. So it works as a wrecker, and as I say, it's for the purist. Not 100%, but we're getting it there.
But then with a Land Rover, is anything really pure? Because
you can certainly argue
as soon as they leave the factory, someone changes something to make it their own.
Yeah, I just love the livery of it.
It's great, isn't it? It really is wonderful.
It's smashing, and it does display very nicely.
Yeah. So is this as it was, do you know, or a good idea of what it probably was?
Well, the livery did change since it was originally restored, so that's sort of 35 years ago.
Yeah.
But this was the only change, I think, to the number and the name.
Oh, okay.
I think it was Persimmon or something like that originally.
Was that a real phone number, do you know? Or was
I've not tried it. No. Okay, this is probably not far after the Series 1 story began.
Yeah, this is fascinating. I think I've only seen one of these in the Gaydon Motor Museum before.
Yes, you would have seen one there. It was, I believe, owned by the late Ken Wheelwright, who was one of the first restorers of early Land Rovers. And when we were looking at this one, we spent a long time at Gaydon calling over that exhibit. Having said that, I knew about this one when it was discovered on a Scottish farm, an estate that used to be used as a shooting party vehicle.
Oh yeah, it's perfect for that, isn't it?
At the time, when I first knew about it, even in its unrestored state, it was beyond me. It then sort of had a life in the Series 1 world, which culminated in somebody buying it for a collection of vehicles in Norway. Sadly, this collection wasn't kept in very good condition. This one was left outside, and so it came back onto the market many years later in a very sorry state. And that's the point at which we decided we should have it for the collection. So I think this was about 11 years in restoring.
Oh wow, that's
and
a
it
serious
is.
job.
It's an 80-inch, but of course it's a station wagon that is coach built by a collaboration between Land Rover and Tickford, or Tickford Salmon, up in Newport Pagnell. That derived from Salmon and Sons, the coach builders, so their history goes way back.
Yeah.
Was never very successful.
No, did you say they built about 650?
651, I think, they built. Not too many of them stayed in the UK because they attracted purchase tax. And I don't know the actual numbers, but let's say a farmer's Land Rover that cost £600, if you added purchase tax, became £900, so it was not an attractive option at all.
No one is going to do that unless they really have to.
But
For the rich landowner doing a shooting party...
It's probably the first concept of a Range Rover.
It kind of is, isn't it?
Yeah.
The Road Rover was a concept that sort of followed it about, 10 years later, I guess?
Yes, that's right, but this was... using a lot of early Rover parts, as you would imagine. It's very comfortable, actually. It's 1600 engine this time, petrol.
So it's not the quickest thing in the world.
It's not the quickest, and it's a heavy body, but when you marry those two things together, it actually rides quite nicely.
Yeah,
because it sits on the leaf springs and gives you a very comfortable ride, together with improved seats, which this one, this Tickford model had. So it's a great fun thing to drive, I must admit.
It is fascinating to look at. So you've got the front end of the Land Rover, the bulkhead, a little bit different than the bulkhead above the bonnet line as well.
It sort of is a standard bulkhead up to there. And then, the timber actually pushes down into the bulkhead section.
So it's a wooden frame with aluminium body again? Or skin?
Absolutely, yeah. Ash and hardwood was used to frame it, so
it's a fascinating thing. Sliding windows and
windows, and also it has a fold-down passenger seat, which enabled access through to the passenger seats in the back.
Going to say about this because this I was amazed to find out, because I assumed that you'd climb into the back through the tailgate. It's the first Range Rover style tailgate, isn't it?
Indeed, it is. You could do. It's not for the faint-hearted, but it does make a fabulous picnic plinth.
Absolutely, yeah. I can imagine the guns turning up and having their slow gin and snacks midway through the shoot.
Yes, that's right. No, this is a particular favourite of ours. This one.
Yeah, I can believe that.
This one's Polly, so she's a member of the family.
Oh yeah, we forgot to mention this, didn't we?
We did forget when Sybil joined us, she's so named because of her registration number, first three letters SYB. So not by me, but by the original owner, she was known as Sybil. So we have to continue that. So as we added to the collection, we thought we'll use the names from 40 Towers. So the second one was Basil. This one is Polly.
What was the fire engine?
I think because it was originated in Ireland, we named that one O'Reilly.
Oh, of course.
Yeah. So that's an 80-inch Tickford station wagon.
That is,
two-tone colours, as you can see.
Very, very rare and very, very lovely.
It is a rare one.
I love the fact you've also got, it's a lovely kind of cover. This is a cake.
Indeed.
Cake display stand over
the only one vehicle that it was sort of used on, really.
Yeah, I've never seen one before.
Yeah, you see that conversion vehicles and so on have used that sort of idea as well. Particularly ones that perhaps were in Sweden. But this was production Land Rover.
Yeah, that's quite incredible. Yeah, it really is amazing. So this is very interesting. Now you showed us that model earlier,
and here it is. Here's the model. The registration number NGF998 on the model is NGF998 on the actual vehicle. And there is a photograph of NGF998 in service.
Which is astonishing. So you had that toy back when the car was new.
Indeed.
You were little.
Indeed.
And all these years later, you've actually found the same car from the model.
And I'm still little, yeah. But, she's lovely.
That's incredible.
Because we've had these photographs, it gave us the queue, particularly with the views into the back of it,
which
with
is
the equipment
amazing.
That was carried, to actually replicate it true to these photographs when it was in service.
It's quite remarkable. So this was one of the AA's first Land Rovers, I assume.
Indeed. This is a sort of 52, 53 model. So again, it's the 2-litre petrol engine that would drive this. In AA's own heritage collection, they've got like a lights behind the grille earlier one from 1948, 49. But this one is sort of a little bit newer.
I didn't realise AA jumped onto the Land Rovers almost immediately.
Yeah, absolutely. And they did a lot of work in presenting them for the service themselves. So the hardtop on this is not a Land Rover hardtop.
It's very interesting.
It's what AA themselves created in their own workshops with trafficators, which are standard Land Rover in the side. But if you look on the inside of this one, then you'll see that actually what Land Rover supplied was a standard bronze green Land Rover that then went to the AA workshops to have the livery added and the colour added.
So a regular 80-inch.
So it's an 80-inch, yep,
and
2 litre petrol, which is probably a very interesting mix between the two. So the 2 litre engine in an 80-inch Land Rover gives it a nice lot of power to sort of move along nicely. So much improved performance to the 1600.
But you're saying about this roof, which you've had rebuilt. Well, you found the original.
We found one that was very close to the photographs, and this was restored by R&R Classics in Malton in Yorkshire. And the proprietor there, Robert Sargent, is probably the leading authority on Series One Land Rovers in the country, and he's also the engineering brain and practical person to put it all together. So he basically built this from scratch, which is as close to the original as it can possibly be.
And again, it's fascinating to see it in the in progress photos, because it's a wooden frame with aluminium skin again.
Indeed,
which is quite surprising. You think in the mid-50s they would be metal framed.
No, this was certainly a wooden frame and then skinned with aluminium.
Yeah, but what's also incredible is this equipment in the back. Because of that photo,
we've replicated it true to the photograph.
And you say you'd found an AA man who worked at the time, and he confirmed that this is the correct.
We sourced as much information as possible so that we were not getting it wrong. And yes, you're quite right. This included information from a patrolman who confirmed what type of equipment they would carry.
Bradbury Jack,
the
radio,
and the Pyrex fire extinguisher.
Oh, yeah.
Which actually has property of AA on it, which
does it?
We tend not to point out to observers.
They might want it back. And everything painted yellow, of course.
Yep.
And the chains, is that a snow chain or a tow chain?
Yeah, well, they would have had snow chains on them, yeah, that's right.
It's a huge spare battery in case someone needed a jump start.
Yep, they were actually tandem to 6-volt batteries that they used to carry.
Okay, so because cars were still a lot of 6-volt cars.
Yeah. So we're gradually sort of dressing this one up with period features as we find them that would have been carried by the AA patrolmen.
So where are you finding? Are you just on eBay every night hunting for things, or going to auctions?
My wife's very good at that. Yeah. No, we're searching stuff out, and people know that we have this one now. So often they come forward with pieces that we can add. Like the old tapes that we used on the road for measuring accidents and things like that, with the AA logos on, which are all very nice stuff.
Absolutely, fantastic stuff. Yeah. It's amazing to see the state that this thing was in when it was found. It is unrecognisable as the car it once had been. It even turned into a lightweight off-roader with a big roll cage and things in it. And it wasn't in the greatest condition, but you could see under the green paint, the old original yellow, which was on top of the original green, was still there. This has had a massive restoration. You can see the state of the frame before the welding work was done to repair it. And the thing looks like brand new now. It's incredible. And it's actually rather interesting to see this unique rear window design with the twin spectacle windows in the back of it, which are actually replicated perfectly in the model as well. And of course the tricky thing with a liveried vehicle like this is getting the old markings correct. The old logos, the old sign writing. This is actually done by a lady from Yorkshire who works at the Beamish Museum. So it's all hand painted on the side of the car. So you've got one more that's not here, haven't you?
I have. That's up at the R&R Classics workshops in Yorkshire.
Keeping them busy still.
They're keeping them busy, and they're doing a fabulous job on that one. It's a 1948-49 80-inch again, early one, lights behind the grille, but it's the farmer's version. So it's the basic light green tilt soft top, which is, as most people would think, what a Land Rover is.
The one you see on the greetings card.
Exactly. But this one is being fitted with power takeoff equipment, so that we can drive a pulley at the back and some equipment. And
have you got any equipment to go on there?
That's our next quest. Yes.
Find something. Don't care what it is. We're going to find something.
It's looking fabulous. It's coming back with trafficators fitted, and you know, it's had a little bit of work done on the gearbox, as well as the engine. So we're looking forward to running that one this season.
That'll be fun. Yeah,
it will be fun.
Let's hope for a nice summer for that one then.
Yeah, and talking of fun.
Yes, this is the most funnable one.
This is the last of the Series Ones, which is a station wagon again, a little bit different.
Yeah, it does look a bit different actually.
Because it's a slightly bigger wheelbase. So it's a short wheelbase still. It's an 88 inch as opposed to an 86 inch. And that was switched over and extended for one reason only, to add the diesel engine option when that came along towards the end.
Talk about a second. I never realised that the extension in the wheelbase is just here.
Just about there is where you'd recognise it. Yeah, exactly. And this is a very late version, so 1958 Series 1. If you remember what I said at the beginning, they ran from 10 years, 48 to 58. And so this is just before the Series 2 came into existence. So this is literally one of the very last.
It's almost prototyping Series 2.
It is actually.
As it goes around.
And you notice when you're going through it, when you're driving it, you know, some of the components are very close now to Series 2, and it's the whole period of 10 years was a development period for Land Rover. Things were improved and changed, but this one actually is very near to original. We've only sort of sympathetically done some tidying up of it.
Just original paint.
But otherwise, it's as close to as possible. In fact, if you look on the top of the wings, you'll see that some of the paint has actually
back down to the aluminium.
Come down to. But people would sort of say, "Oh, this is wonderful patina."
Yes,
and I do appreciate it looking like this, and it does look nice.
It does really.
I draw the line when patina becomes tatina, and then that doesn't interest me. It does some people, and that's fine.
No,
but
with this, it's original, and it's only original once.
Yeah.
We were just saying a second ago, I've got to see it on the bonnet as well. It really has.
Yes, indeed.
A lovely shiny patch.
Yeah.
On this rear area, you can see sort of green. Is that green undercoat?
Indeed.
Or do people sometimes think
that was possibly, what we think actually, and from Phil Bashall, who owned this at Dunsfold at one point, is that it was a bronze green top that was in the production process. But they got a grey Land Rover and they needed it grey, so they literally just put it on and then painted it grey.
Wow.
It was that close towards the end of production,
so
really.
Anything they could, they're not going to make any more, so they'll
that's right. Use up everything that they could.
Yeah.
But it's a lovely thing.
It is. Yeah.
Many people would say of the Series 1s, in terms of practicality, ease of driving, that this version was the most sorted, which you would imagine it ought to be the case, because it's been developed over a period of 10 years.
And it's a 7-seater as well, 3 across the front, and then...
Yeah, that was pretty standard on the genuine station wagons. And as you pointed out before, I think it comes with the safari roof, which again is typical of the genuine station wagons that were built.
Which is what you would think of, like Dactari and those kind of TV shows from the 60s and 70s. You always see the Land Rover with the double roof. And
so although they're all Series 1 Land Rovers...
They're all very different, aren't they?
They're all quite different, and they've all got their own character.
Yeah.
And even if you get two which are running on exactly the same type of engine, they have their own characteristics, and nobody can explain to me why that is, and everybody says the same thing.
They're all built side by side, but they don't behave...
They're all individual, and people say, well, why do you sort of have this passion for Land Rover Series 1s? Because they're sort of noisy, they leak, they rattle, they're not very comfortable, and they're drafty, but they put a smile on your face.
Yeah,
and that's the reason I think you put up with all the other stuff.
Exactly.
You know, that sort of smile says it all.
I actually did a review last week on the channel, and it was a Defender 90, a Puma engine, same as that one. And nothing's really changed in a way. It still feels bouncy and drafty. And
yes, absolutely. Yeah. No, you're right.
But it was the most enjoyable car I've driven in ages. Yeah. And I'd rather have that than a Ferrari. given the choice.
That's true. That's
Yeah.
yeah, you often think, well, maybe I should sort of change this one for something a little bit more modern, but then when you get behind the wheel and if it's towing something, which is what it was really designed to do, then it comes into its own.
Exactly. There's nothing else quite like it. And
no, that's right. And it's that smile. You know, whatever anyone says, it puts the smile on your face.
You really can't not grin. The moment you get in, you hear it sort of chug into life. And
that's right. Yeah, you've got a commanding driving position. You can see over the hedgerows, actually, I mean, that one is really quite comfortable compared to the early ones.
It did come a long way. But what is interesting, that's a Ford engine. My Freelander outside's got a BMW engine.
BMW engine, yeah.
But you turn the key, and it doesn't sound like a Ford or a BMW. It sounds like a Land Rover.
Yeah,
and I don't know what they've done to it, but it's something is different in there, and it makes you feel
as though it should be theirs. Yes,
Yeah.
yes, they're exactly right. No, that's of course, that's, as you say, the Puma engine is from the Transit, basically. But
it doesn't sound or feel or drive anything like a Transit.
No, and the torque is always where it needs to be for off-road driving. So
it's great.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Nick.
Okay, you're most welcome.
So what's next on the collection?
Well, I want to keep the collection now. I'm just sort of entering retirement in a position where they are, as they are now, all on the button and ready to use. So I think the mistake would be to continue to add to the collection. I mean, the smart money is on keeping them all running nicely, and then keeping them all properly serviced, and that's where I should get the fun.
Getting them out to shows, and you say you've taken this one all around Europe.
Well, this one's been over to France, and others go across with us on holidays to Belgium and so on, and there's lots of local club events, not just from the local area, but the MARC, the Series One Club, and the Historic Commercial Vehicle Society are always running things. So
always out and about in them, and
it's using them that is the fun.
We were going to take one out today, but there's a hurricane coming, so
we'll see. This one's ready to go if you want to have a look.
Maybe we'll come back on a drier day when it's not pouring with rain.
You're very welcome. No,
I certainly look forward to taking this AA van out for a proper drive on a nice day.
You'd be most welcome.
Thank you.
You'd be most welcome.
I look forward to coming back. Thanks, Nick.
Great, pleasure.
Cool.